Alright YouTube, Random Ross here. So this is another video, part of Creepypasta week. I said that during this week I'll read out 3 original creepypastas that are written, and this is one of them. It is called The German, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. If you want to like this video, please give it a like. If you want to share, please feel free to share. And also, I'm on social media, Facebook and Twitter, so there'll be links to them in the description below. So follow and like me and see what I get up to outside of YouTube and to stay updated. Also, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you after this one. So, without further ado, I give you original creepypasta, The German. Reason why it's all black and white is because I want to give it sort of an artist sort of feel to it, sort of horror feel. Anyway, yes, let's go. I lived in any other neighbourhood. Not very good neighbours next door to me, the Hudsons. They have a dog that is always barking, and they play their music really loud, showing, well, sometimes playing it loud, in the middle of the night, just showing no consideration for the others in the neighbourhood. They're what give my neighbourhood a bad name. The house across the road from me has been on sale for months since the last neighbour, an elderly woman, passed away. One morning I noticed that there was a moving truck outside the house. I knew outside the house that had been on sale for ages, finally going to be lived in. I thought I'd be a good neighbour and introduce myself and welcome them into the neighbourhood. And warned him about the Hudsons. So I went across the road and saw Mr. Hudson walk past me. Looks like he's already got to the new neighbour before I did. Anyway, I went across and introduced myself. I told him hello. He then introduced himself to me. He said hello. He said hello. He then rephrased that by saying hello to me in a German accent. He told me his name is Mr. Drossel. He was tall and wore glasses and sort of had a sinister look about him. Slick trousers and a polo shirt. He said he was a writer. He said he was a writer. He said he was a writer. Certainly looked the part. He was taking some time away from Germany to get inspiration for a book he was writing. I thought he must have had a long journey here, and asked if he would like to come to my house for dinner later. He kindly declined my offer, as he said the Hudsons have already invited him over for dinner, but I told him perhaps another time, and then told me it would be nice to meet me. Later that day, preparing pre-evening time, I saw Mr. Drossel walk across the road to the Hudsons. Their dog was constantly barking. I wish they would shut that dog up. Later I saw Mr. Drossel walk back to his house. I was looking out of the window. He saw me and waved to me. I waved back. Seemed like a really nice man. As the night went on into the early hours of the morning, the Hudson's dog was still barking really loud. I could hear other people around the neighbourhood shouting, telling them to shut that dog up, until the barking abruptly stopped. And then, all of a sudden, it was quiet. Then I drifted off into a natural sleep. I woke up the next morning and looked out the window. Mr. Hudson was looking for the dog around, but was nowhere to be seen. He went around door to door, thinking someone might have taken matters into their own hands and let the dog go or killed it. Killed it even. I saw across the road my mum talking to Mr. Drossel. She then walked back home and then told me that she's invited Mr. Drossel over for dinner tonight. And that I should be on my best behaviour. Later that evening he came around with some flowers for my mum and chocolates for me, and a copy of one of his books telling me it's an English copy. My mum cooked her famous pork chops and gravy. I also asked why he has come to England to write a book, telling me he wants to try and sell books in the UK. I asked him what the book is about, titled The German. I read it, and it was about a sick man that got a thrill out of killing and eating people. I thought, okay, he writes horror. Later, around 11 o'clock, I saw Mr. Drossel walk across and looked like he was asking them to tell their kids to turn the music down. I then saw them break into an argument. I told them in the early hours. I woke up in the early hours just to use the toilet. I then thought I saw I've got to use the toilet. I then thought, I see if the sun is on the way up. I saw Mr. Hudson walk across to Mr. Drossel's house. I just closed my curtain and went back to bed. I woke up later that morning. I came downstairs and noticed at the door my mum was arguing with Mrs. Hudson, saying that her husband Mr. Hudson missed breakfast this morning and no one had seen him. No one seems to have seen him. Later that day, around lunchtime, my mum was at work and it was a holiday for me. I then went over to Mr. Drossel's and asked if he saw Mr. Hudson. He told me no. He told me no, but he would keep an eye out for him. He then invited me in for lunch. He made what he told me was man soup. It smells like pork even. Tasted like pork. I told him it's pork. He grinned and then he made man soup for lunch. I said it tastes like pork. He told me, he grinned and told how can I be sure after his hospitality. I noticed, I didn't want to sound rude or anything, I noticed that he had dug up what was looking like a flower bed. I then asked, I then went home and enjoyed the rest of my day just playing on my Xbox. Later, Mr. Drossel came and told me to give my mum a bowl of what he called man soup for her, as a way of saying thank you for our hospitality last night that he brought over. Later, as I was getting ready for bed, just relaxing, watching TV, as midnight came along, I was feeling sleepy, so I called it a night, and with the TV, I then got up and switched it off. My TV then looked out, so I turned off the TV and I then looked out the window, as I had a habit of doing so. I then saw Mr. Drossel walk across to the Hudsons and let himself in with a key somehow. Somehow he got a key. I then got thinking, should I call the police? Did he kill Mr. Hudson? The next morning, the Hudsons were not playing their music loud. In fact, their house seemed to be showing no sign of life. Later on, I then walked to Mr. Drossel's house. I looked around in his bin and found a dog's collar which had the Hudson's number and address on it. I then was thinking, did he kill the Hudson's dog? I looked into his I looked. He had their number. I don't think did he kill Hudson and the dog. I looked into his kitchen. He was cooking what looked like to be liver. Could have been human liver at this point, as I grew more suspicious. I was getting paranoid, so I called the police. I saw them going into Mr. Drossel's house, and about 10 minutes later they came out and he bid farewell to the two policemen. The police then came to my house telling me off for wasting police time. I told them about the dog collar in his bin outside. I took them to the bin and found nothing. Mr. Drossel came outside asking what we were doing on his property. The police told him that I was wasting police time and said they will deal with me. He told me, the policeman, to not be too harsh. Then Mr. Drossel told the police not to be too harsh, and my mum My mum groaned and told me that I can't go over to Mr. Drossel. She was furious at me for wasting the police time. She told me to go over to Mr. Drossel's and apologise, as he had no proof. I tried to catch him in the act. 2 months went by. I couldn't find anything on him. I gave up. To be honest, the neighbourhood did start to get better about the Hudsons. It's like they all just disappeared overnight. Could Mr. Drossel have something to do with it? One reported them. So they report them missing, as anyone assumed that. No one reported them missing, as they assumed they moved out. They were also behind on bills and repayments. So I believe. So relief broke. So I believe that they did a runner. So, to my belief, some bailiff broke into the house, helped themselves to everything in the house. It's like all their possessions were still there. Also, it had to be broken into many times to be visible. It seems to have been broken into by vandals and looters. Another 2 months had gone by, and I noticed there was a moving truck outside Mr. Drossel's. He was packing up. I asked him where he was going. He told me he was going back to Germany to get his book published. And that he only rented the house for 4 months and said he will be leaving for Germany. too. I thought as a goodbye, I wanted to invite him to dinner tonight. And like how we first met 4 months ago, he kindly declined and told me that last night he finished a 4-course meal, adding that one person can feed another for an entire month. I then looked in horror if he eats humans and asked him if he killed and ate the Hudsons, telling me that I don't have to worry about a noisy neighbourhood anymore. And since they went, the neighbourhood has gotten better. And then told me I was welcome. He told me I was welcome. What for? I didn't even give him a thanks. The movers had finished loading his things on the moving truck, said they were ready to go when he was. As Mr. Drossel got into his car, he grinned and then said goodbye to me in his language and just drove away. Later, when the night came, I sneaked out and went into the German's house and dug up his flower bed. He planted and found the flower bed he planted. I found what looked like the remains of the Hudson's dog. I then looked around the house, dreading what I might find. I looked in the cellar and I found, oh God, I found what looked like bones with teeth marks in. I also found what was the Hudson's clothing. I then ran out of the house, terrified, and then I knew I was right about Mr. Drossel, the German. He was a cannibal. A German. Cannibalizing on bodies.